Roberto Duran, boxing legend, rips Gennady Golovkin and Canelo for Canelo versus Golovkin Part 3. Let's talk about it. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, SLC, subscribe, like, and comment for the latest and greatest in boxing. Boxing legend Roberto Duran hands a stone. He had a recent interview, and this is what he said. Quote, "I thought Canelo was going to apply more pressure to knock him out. Golovkin didn't apply a lot of pressure. He should retire now. He lost against Canelo. Golovkin is not the same as before. I saw him lazy. Golovkin, I saw him washed. His mind didn't help him. He didn't think well. In boxing, you have to think a lot." End quote. The walls are closing in on Canelo Alvarez. Listen, it is ironic to me in this world of boxing. You know it, I know it. I am the greatest in boxing history in the digital space of covering boxing. These are all things that I said to the dismay of Canelo fans. Before the fight, I told you I was not anticipating the fight. That's why on my channel, you didn't see me build up the fight. Canelo wants to play a game. And, I really just watched this fight as a boxing fan with very little expectations. It seems to me that many people are disappointed in the fight. But I'm not disappointed because it's very hard to get disappointed when you have no expectations. I expected this fight to be a crock of shit, and the fight was a crock of shit. So there was nothing for me to be at odds with because I knew exactly what would happen, and this is what I said. Now, the Canelo Chupapi Muñeños in the comment section, they said, "Oh, you're hating. You're just a Canelo hater. You're hating on Canelo." Now, after we've actually got to witness it, was I wrong with anything I said? No, I was not. I agree with Roberto Duran. I stated this before the fight. Golovkin, he's not the same fighter from the first two fights. When you have a legend who, it's funny, ironically enough, a guy like Roberto Duran is saying this, who old media loves. Old media loves Roberto Duran. Hands of stone. They bring up the Sugar Ray Leonard first fight, but they won't bring up the second and third Sugar Ray Leonard Duran fight where Sugar Ray actually beat him and made him no mas, right? So old media, they love Roberto Duran, and he's the one that's critiquing the fight. I think another point to note, in case some people don't know this, Roberto Duran went from earlier this year praising Canelo Alvarez, right? He was praising Canelo Alvarez, and he says that Canelo could be the greatest Mexican fighter ever. This was, of course, before the Dimitri Bivol fight. So he had high levels of praise, saying Canelo could be the GOAT of Mexican fighters. After the Bivol fight, Roberto Duran did a complete 180, and he says, quote, "I thought Canelo was smarter. He fought like an amateur." How does one in such a short space of time go from saying Canelo could be the greatest Mexican fighter? So that list, you would have to think of Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. You would have to think of Finito Lopez. You would have to think of Juan Manuel Marquez, Eric Morales, Marco Antonio Barrera. You would have to think about Salvador Sanchez. All these names. That is the lineage from Mexico, right? And in such a short space of time, you have a legend like Roberto Duran who is thinking Canelo could be the greatest and topple all those guys. And I just named a handful of fighters from Mexico that have done great things and, definitely left their mark in boxing. And then do a complete 180 and say that I thought Canelo was smarter. He fought like an amateur. And then after the Golovkin fight, he's saying, I thought Canelo was going to knock him out and put more pressure, and Golovkin looked washed. So what does this all mean? Bad news for Canelo and DAZN. I almost called it Cazone because it's one and the same. But it's a bad look because at the end of the day, you got to look at Canelo's fights. He's allegedly the face of boxing. He wants people to worship him and, you know, say he's the face of boxing, #1 pound for pound, but he's not giving us #1 pound for pound performances, nor events that are blockbuster events where people leave and they're happy. Like when you watch a Gervonta Tank Davis fight, next day on SportsCenter, you can see the highlight of his knockout. When you're watching a Wilder fight, same deal. You're watching an Errol Spence, you see these dynamic highlight reels of the action and the performance that that person just had, or even David Benavidez or whoever, right? There were very few moments in the Canelo Golovkin 3 where you can really have an exciting highlight reel without trying to force it, where you've seen all this sustained action because it wasn't that type of fight. Canelo was working in the early rounds, got extremely tired late, and the second half, he looked completely fatigued and faded. And that was shocking given how little offense Golovkin was showing for the first 8 rounds. He was barely throwing anything outside of a jab. He was never lacing up any combinations, and he looked incredibly slow. So, as I stated, this was going to go down in the world of boxing as the worst of the trilogy for sure. And I even likened it to Mike Alvarado versus Brandon Rios 3, where the first 2 were fun fights that people enjoyed, and the third people would be complaining about. And that's what happens. You look at the day after, the only chatter that I've seen the day after the Canelo versus Triple G fight were insults to the fight and complaints. People saying that Triple G, he's washed up and he should retire, and how Triple G didn't look the same, and how the event didn't, like nothing positive. It was all negative stuff about, you know, what the fight did not deliver. So I said this before and I'll say it again. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment SLC. Sometimes in boxing, you can win and still lose. Sometimes in boxing, you can lose and still win. What do I mean? Like, let's say Wilder. Wilder lost in his trilogy to Tyson Fury, but he still won. Now his box rec shows a loss, so I'm not taking away his actual loss that's on his record. But what I'm saying is the way he fought, the way he stood up to adversity, the way he dropped Fury twice, the heart he showed, he really won in that sense, because people have no choice but to respect the man, the myth, the legend that is Wilder for giving up that type of effort in the third fight. Versus this fight was abysmal. This fight, Triple G, he was getting on the phone after the fight, talking on the phone, laughing. His face was clear, and it was just really a flat performance from both fighters, especially Canelo in the second half as opposed to the first half. So this is just not a star-making performance. And when you hear Roberto Duran and all these people say Golovkin was washed, it lets you know why Canelo chose him instead of a dangerous Bivol rematch, a dangerous David Morrell, a dangerous David Benavidez or Charlo fight. Checkmate. Let me know how I did, what you think of Robert Duran's comments. He's saying Triple G is washed, so the walls are closing in and the jig is up. And I'm up. Introducing Super Thanks. Right here on the official Boxing Ego YouTube. Super Thanks allows you, the viewers, to show a little bit of extra gratitude, which enables me as a full-time content creator to push out the content you need in the world of boxing. Underneath all the videos, you will see a heart with the $sign in it. You can enter any amount that you find suitable as a super thanks. A brand new interactive and colorful way to get your comments highlighted and noticed by not only myself, but other people on the YouTube platform. Super thanks, a unique and cool way to show and applaud us full-time content creators. Hopefully you guys enjoy the content. Super thanks. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster. We working.